A new report shows that Americans are increasingly, I'm not making this up, they're turning to a rideshare program with Uber instead of calling an ambulance to take them to the hospital. This option is obviously a lot more, it's a lot cheaper for consumers, but it creates a huge liability, obviously. If I'm advising Uber, do you do this or not? There's some pretty serious problems here. But look, give me your take on this story. First of all, lay the story out. Kind of, this happens all the time, but we got a couple of examples here of this.
Well, the law is that if you see somebody hurt on a street, you have absolutely no responsibility to go help that person. That's a little sad, right. But legally you don't have. But once you volunteer to help, once you start to help, Good Samaritan, that's exactly right. So what Uber's issue and Lyft is that if somebody's sick and they can't afford to call 911 or they're worried about the costs, it's a heck of a lot easier just to hit Uber, get a ride, and take it to the hospital for $22 or $15 than to pay thousands for an ambulance, right? So the Uber drivers are coming to pick up somebody that's sick and then essentially acting as an ambulance. Yeah. And so the issue is if something happens on the way, does the Uber driver become responsible? Can they turn down the ride? To me, what jumps
isn't it the classic example of the woman having a baby in the backseat of a cab?
Yeah, what bothers me is that people don't feel. We did a story recently about people getting thrown in jail for not paying debts, right? Yeah. So here's somebody who's clearly worried. I'm scared to call an ambulance. In our society, people shouldn't be, at this point in time, concerned that I can't afford an ambulance and I'm going to hit an Uber. That's really kind of sad. It's the first thing that struck me. Where are we that people are hitting Uber as an app on their cell phone when they're worried about going into a hospital in an emergency care situation?
Well, I mean, that's the first thing that jumped out. There's people having heart attacks. They think they're having a heart attack. The Uber shows up. They tip over in the back seat. What is the answer?
And the Uber driver accepts the ride, knowing that someone can go take me to the hospital, and then all of a sudden is Uber responsible?
Another guy's losing consciousness. He doesn't know why he's losing consciousness.
I've been in and out of consciousness over the last few days. The story reported.
So he's losing consciousness. I mean, this is so absurd. The only reason I'm laughing is this is what we've come to because hospital corporations have raped America. We now have hospital corporations. People can't even afford an ambulance ride to the hospital because hospital corporations, and now they own. You talk about lateral growth. They own the ambulance. They own the mortuary. They own the whole deal. You got these hospital corporations coming and buying up every aspect of your end of life kind of problem. So people can't even afford medical bills anymore because we don't have a health care system that's even as good as they have in China. We don't even have a health care system even as good as they have in third world countries because of that. You see, here's what people are missing, Peter. You see this all the time because of the cases that you handle. But hospital corporations are a new thing. I mean, they're a relatively new thing. Used to be doctors.
The HCAs of the world, the mega hospitals.
Columbia, those types of. But you used to have like doctor-run hospitals, right? And now corporations run hospitals. I just met this earlier this morning with this family. And when I listened to the way they were handled by this hospital, you go, first of all, it's obviously there's a hell of a civil suit there, but there ought to be a criminal suit there, the way they were handled. Hospital corporations are changing, including being able to get to the hospital in an Uber.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, maybe we all make fun of Canada, but maybe the hospital systems in Canada, I mean, at the end of the day, at least you have access to the hospital systems. I mean, here, if you're scared, not only of what bill you're going to get when you're going to get to the hospital, but you don't even want to pay an ambulance to get there. One of the things I saw fascinating about this article was that a couple studies have shown that when Uber comes into an area, the use of ambulances drops dramatically, materially. Wow. That they're inversely correlated. Uber comes in, Uber goes up, ambulance rides go down. I mean,
what do you think? Would you call an Uber?
But the thought never occurred to me to call an Uber. but then again, it's scary because I don't think you and I are at the end of the day, it's going to be folks that don't have the money to get to the hospital. And instead of calling, I wouldn't even think of hitting an Uber ride.